Hello and welcome back to Pass a Turn. This is a episode on the new Commander deck, well, one of the Commander decks from Commander Legends. So obviously Commander Legends is a draft set that is basically Commander, although in the actual draft itself you can actually have multiple cards and you have 60 card decks and what have you. It's a lot different to the actual EDH game, but it is absolutely revolutionary in its design, and it's hitting a lot of us straight in the face with some awesome reprints, some awesome Commander staples, some new cards, and loads of new commanders that we can use. And obviously we've got Commander decks, Precons, that come with every sort of release now. And I'm going to be going through one of them. This is called Reap the Tides. When I first saw this, I thought, wow, this is definitely for me. Even the lead singer of the deck was a creature type that I have been waiting for a long time. Albeit we did get one in Zendikar, but it was no good. This one is just value, and we'll get to that later. But before we go into it, please make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that little bell notification if you want to be notified of any future videos. We do a lot of EDH here, but we're going to be venturing into loads of different things going forward. And if you're looking to buy any sort of Magic the Gathering product, board games, card accessories, singles, Warhammer, tabletop games, board games, any sort of geeky hobby, go and check out our affiliate Level Up Gaming. We visited them on a Pass a Turn Versus series episode 3 it was, and they were so welcoming, their shop was awesome, and they gave us a discount code that everybody can use. So if you're looking to pick up any stock in the UK, go and check out Level Up Gaming and use the Pass a Turn discount code at checkout to receive 2% off. They're already highly discounted off of normal product pricing, but use that extra discount, get a bit of extra money off, and order the products that you're going to order anyway. That would be great. But let's get straight into this. So Reap the Tides is a sea creature-y type deck. It's in the Symmitch colours, so obviously the Symmitch colours are known for their huge value potential, and they're hated on by a lot of the Magic community because it's like, oh no, not Symmitch again, not the value engines again. We don't need any more green or blue support, which is true. We don't really. We need support in white. We need support in red, but nevertheless, we get a Symmitch Commander deck that really focuses on just valuing out, and it's interesting, albeit it's going to be, you know, a very basic level entry to the Magic the Gathering Commander world, but it is definitely singing on my hymn sheet with the theme. So this is called Reap the Tides, and the lead singer of the deck is AC, Tyrant of Gaia Strait. So AC, Tyrant of Gaia Strait. There's been a lot of tyrants in Magic recently. Leyline Tyrant. I recently bought a Dragon Tyrant from very old set, Scourge I think it was. There's a lot of tyrants in the set. So there's a lot of bad guys, bad girls, or bad things in the world of Magic right now. And AC is apparently one of them. So this is a legendary creature Serpent. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know me. I love my Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. And when I saw this, I was like, yes, here we go. Legendary creature Serpent. The one I was referring to earlier was the Verizolved Split Current. That was garbage. But this one is just utter value. And it can go in the aforementioned Sea Creature deck. It can go in a Rigsmithy's Slumbering Isle deck, which has a deck tech on there somewhere floating around. But yeah, just awesome. So let's read it. AC, Tyrant of the Gaia Strait, legendary creature Serpent. It's a 5/5, and it costs green, blue, and 4. So it costs 6 mana in total. But in green and blue, you can obviously get this out a lot earlier because you've got access to a lot of ramp, a lot of growth spiral, urban evolution type effects. So first of all, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. So that's original. Well, where was this in Zendikar Rising? And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. You may think that sounds familiar. It is very familiar. This is basically a jacked up Tatyova Benthic Druid. Tatyova Benthic Druid is basically 1 mana less, so it's green, blue, and 3 for a 3/3, I believe, Merfolk Shaman or something. But basically has the same ability. Whenever a land enters, you can draw a card and you gain 1 life. But this card, whenever a land enters, you may draw a card. You don't have to draw the card, and also you can play an additional land on each of your turns. Now there could be a whole other discussion on whether Tatyova or AC, which one is better, which one is more utilised. But as a Timmy, you want to go for AC Tyrant of the Gaia Strait, because in green and blue you're going to be able to ramp to 6 mana extremely quickly. It's a 5/5, so it's already tougher and bigger than Tatyova, and Tatyova will not allow you to play an additional land. This one does. So I think AC will probably win the battle in the long run, in my opinion. I think AC is better, surely because the 1 mana difference isn't really going to make a difference when you're playing with green and blue Symmitch deck. So that's my thoughts on it. I think AC would be the commander that I would choose to use in the deck that is trying to portray. I'm not sure if Tatyova comes in the deck, but it is very, very similar to Tatyova, so I don't think it probably would. But yeah, let's not go too much into that debate. But that's AC Tyrant of the Gaia Strait. So basically a big body that allows you to play extra lands, and whenever you play lands, you get additional benefit. In this case, it's drawing a card. So messing with lands is always an interesting talking point, because it's a vital mechanic of Magic. You play lands to then enable your actual plays. So if the lands that you're dropping are cantripping into draw cards, it's a very, very powerful ability. And stay tuned to the channel. We actually played a game with the Gaming Den, and on that episode Pleasant Kenobi features, and he is playing the aforementioned Tatyova the Benthic Druid deck, and it just went off. He knows how to build decks, that's for sure. So yeah, let's go into a deck list now. So we're breaking down into categories. So first of all, we have the commander, which is what I just explained there. Next, we have the creatures. So these are all the creatures of the deck. And there's a lot of interesting things in here. There's quite a lot of different flavours and themes going on, but it is fairly cohesive with a few caveats. But let's first of all go into a big creature. So the first creature you get in here is Avenger of Zendikar. So Avenger of Zendikar is green, green, and 5 for an elemental, so 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. So this is basically a land matters deck in a sense. So where was it in Zendikar? Where was it? Who knows? And it also has a landfall ability on there. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. So basically all the plants that the Avenger has just created, every time you drop a land, they're going to grow, which signifies Zendikar Rising, basically. The next card we have in here is Elder Deep Fiend. Interesting include. So this is an 8-cost Eldrazi Octopus. It's a 5/6 with flash, so it costs 8 generic mana to play. It does have flash, so you can play at instant speed, and it does have an emerge cost. So blue, blue, and 5, you can cast it for its emerge cost by sacrificing a creature and paying its emerge cost reduced by that creature's converted mana cost. So let's just say you had an you had an Elvish Visionary out. You decide to emerge it from the Elvish Visionary. The cost of the emerge gets reduced by 2 because of the fact that the Elvish Visionary costs 2. And the Elder Deep Fiend would emerge from that sacrifice creature, basically. Interesting mechanic. I'm surprised they haven't brought any more emerges back. And then when you cast Elder Deep Fiend, you can tap up to 4 target permanents. Whether he emerges or not, you get to tap 4 target permanents when he emerges. So it's an interesting card, Eldrazi Octopus. We have Meloku the Clouded Mirror. So this is a legendary creature, Moonfolk Wizard. Interesting. 1 blue and 4 others for a 2/4 with flying. And it says pay 1, return a land you control to its owner's hand, put a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So that's a fantastic way of making sure you hit your land drops every single turn to make sure you draw that card from AC and get all of your landfall triggers and all that sort of stuff. So in a green-blue land matters deck, that is absolutely awesome, and it also has a way of creating a flying board state for you as well, which is awesome. So I can see why they included that in there. So yeah, just a good, great way of just making sure you return your land to your hand, get a board state, you can play that land again with your additional land for turn, and you get in that board state. It's lovely. Next we have Nezahar, the Primal Tide. So this is interesting. Blue, blue, and 5 for a legendary Elder Dinosaur. It's a 7/7. It cannot be countered. You have no maximum hand size when it's in play. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you draw a card, and then you can discard 3 cards, exile Nezahar, and then return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, just an overall lovely old creature, really. Can't be countered. It makes you have a Relic Tower, basically. It can draw you a lot of cards, and also it can, avoid single target removal as well by discarding 3 cards, exiling it, and then coming back at the end. So whether that's a board wipe, whether that's an Anguished Unmaking, and all that sort of stuff, he can avoid that, which is really, really good actually. Very, very good for protecting yourself against Obliterates and Blast Axe and all that sort of stuff. Next we have an awesome card, Scourge of Fleets. Although I don't know why it's in here. I'll get to the lands later, I guess. But yeah, so Scourge of Fleets is a Kraken creature. So it's a 6/6 Kraken, costs blue, blue, and 5. And when it enters the battlefield, return each creature your opponent's control with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. So again, this is a green-blue deck, so you're going to have a mixture of different lands. So I used to have this in my Slin Voda deck because that was mono-blue, so that cared about a lot of islands. And there was a lot of cards in there that cared about islands you control and blue creatures and stuff. So interesting. It could be a one-sided board wipe in the right situation, and it's a Kraken as well, so it fits in with the Reap the Tides theme, I guess, which is why it's in here. Next we have another Kraken, Shipbreaker Kraken. So this deck was literally just meant for me, wasn't it? Really, Wizards saw the fact that I love Krakens and thought, yeah, let's put up a Commander Precon just for this bloke. Shipbreaker Kraken, sorry. Blue, blue, and 4 for a 6/6 Kraken, and has Monstrosity 4. So you can pay an additional 6 and then blue, blue, and then it becomes monstrous, and it becomes a 10/10, which you put 4 counters on it. When it becomes monstrous, tap up to 4 target creatures. Those creatures do not untap during their controller's next untap steps for as long as you control the Kraken. So it's great, you get a 6/6 for 6, but then if you do have the mana to spare later on, you can make him a 10/10, tap 4 creatures permanently, and they do not untap until Shipbreaker Kraken goes away. So yeah, definitely an awesome sea creature. Next we have Sphinx of Uthun. So this is blue, blue, and 5 for a 5/6 flying Sphinx. Very, very heavy converted mana cost so far. And then when it enters, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, and opponent separates them into 2 piles, put 1 into your hand and the other into a graveyard. So out of those 5 cards, you can normally get the thing that you want, and you can make some deals with people as well, which is quite good, but most of the time you're going to be able to get what you want, even if that's just the 1 card that the opponent separates. That, you get 4 cards or 1 card. They obviously know that the 1 card is the one that you want, so they're obviously just going to put that into the pile of the 1 and the others in the 4. But yeah, normally you can get what you want off of the top 5 with Sphinx of Uthun, and it's nice for Sphinx flying creature as well, which is nice to have. Next we have one of mine and Josh's personal favourites, that's Stormtide Leviathan. So again, huge mana cost, blue, 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 and 5 for an 8/8 Leviathan with Island Walk. So it can't be blocked if defending player controls an island. And it says all lands are islands in addition to other types. So basically, it's just going to swim through it. As soon as it's cast, the world's flood, it can just swim on through, bite someone's face, and yeah. It also says creatures without flying or island walk can't attack. So I don't know how many times I've probably said this, but there's times that you don't want to play Stormtide Leviathan, but other times it can just completely and utterly win you the game because nobody's got an answer to it. Next we have another one of my favourites, Tromokratis. You would have heard all of these cards be explained on previous videos if you look at the backlog. All these cards are in here. Tromokratis, this is another legendary creature Kraken, so it could be a commander in a janky deck. So this costs blue, blue, and 5 for an 8/8 Kraken, and it has hexproof unless it's attacking or blocking. So if it's attacking or blocking, you can single target removal it. If it's just standing there like this, it's not going to be able to be targeted by any sort of single target removal, and that's probably because it's doing a stupid dance like this, so it off-puts the opponent. But yeah, and Tromokratis can't be blocked unless all creatures defending player controls block it as well, which is awesome. So they have to dedicate their entire force to block Tromokratis, otherwise he is just hitting them straight in the face. Next we have an absolute classic, Molomo, Marrow Sorceress. This is green, 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 and 4 for a star trample, and his power and toughness each equals the number of lands you control. So most of the time it's going to be a big, beefy creature for 7 mana, because you're going to be hitting a lot of your land drops. Going to be bringing in loads of your lands in this sort of deck. Yeah, just a big beat stick. Molomo Marrow Sorcerer, a classic card. Next we have a landfall staple, that's Rampaging Baloths or Baloths. This is a 6/6 beast with trample, it costs green, green, and 4, and it has landfall obviously. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token, so another way of hitting your land drops, creating a board state. What else do you need? This is an interesting include in here, and that's Ramanap Excavator. So this is basically a Crucible of Worlds on a creature. So this is a Naga Cleric. It costs a green and 2 others. It's a 2/3 from Hour of Devastation, and it just says you may play lands from your graveyard. So it's basically a Crucible of Worlds on a body. So that will help with obviously your cracked lands, Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, any other stuff that sacks to create an effect on your lands. You'll be able to get this back with Ramanap Excavator, get your landfall triggers, get your draw cards from your commander, all that sort of lovely stuff. One of my co-host's favourite cards, not Terastodon. This is a lovely card. Green, green, and 6 for an elephant. It's a 9/9. And then when it enters the battlefield, you may destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanents. For each permanent put into a graveyard this way, its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. So this can hit lands, enchantments, artifacts, all that sort of good stuff. And yeah, they just get a 3/3 body out of it. A small price to pay for getting rid of those pesky non-creature permanents. Next we have Verdant Sun's Avatar from Ixalan. This is green, green, and 5 for a dinosaur avatar. It's a 5/5. And whenever Verdant Sun's Avatar or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So this card is interesting. I mean, in the deck, you're going to be potentially, if this is out and you're dropping your Krakens, Leviathans and stuff, you're going to be gaining a load of life because of the fact that all of those creatures, and pretty much all these creatures in here, are absolutely massive. You're going to be gaining a lot of life. So in green and blue, it's an interesting include, gaining life for your creature's toughness. So yeah, it could see a spot in the deck, I guess, if you want some life gain. Next we have Fathom Mage. I'm looking at the Symmitch Guild Kit one. I actually bought that a long time ago. It was the first 4K video I ever did. I never did a 4K video again after that, just because of the blemishes and what have you. Fathom Mage, yep, so green, blue, and 2 for a human wizard. It has Evolve. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and then whenever your +1/+1 counter is put on Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. So most of the time, if Fathom Mage sticks around, it's going to get you 5 to 6 cards in this deck, because all your creatures are like power 6 and above. So if the Fathom Mage sticks around, it's going to grow with those creatures that are coming in, and in tandem with that, drawing you cards. Probably not the most competitive and valuable card in the deck, but still it's a precon, so we'll give it a bit of slack. Next we have an awesome card from an awesome cycle of creatures in Shadowmoor, I think it was, a Lorwyn, and that's the Leeches. Now this one in specifically is Murkfiend Leech. So they're all horrors. This is a 2 generic, green, blue, green, blue, green, blue. So you can pay any combination of green, blue to pay for its cost. So the hybrid mana symbol. And it says other green creatures you control get +1/+1. Other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. So this makes your commander a 7/7. Any other green-blue creatures will get them +2/+2. And it says untap all green and or blue creatures you control during each other player's untap steps. That's pretty good. Especially if you've got stuff that have like tap abilities and untap abilities and what have you, you can do some awesome shenanigans with this. It's basically a Seedball Muse for your creatures. And if you've got a way to make all of your creatures, all of your lands creatures, you can untap all your lands as well, which is pretty nice. as long as they're green or blue creatures. Next we have a just an absolute menace in the deck, Symmitch Sky Swallower. So this is one of my favourite Leviathans. It's one of the only Leviathans with flying. So this costs green, blue and 5 for a flying trample 6/6 Shroud. So just a pain in the ass really, this card, Symmitch Sky Swallower. But yeah, nice little beat stick. Next we have Mole Drifter, so this is blue and 4 for a 2/2 flying elemental. When it enters you draw 2 cards, but you can evoke it for blue and 2, so when you cast it for his evoke, it comes in, it's sacrificed as it enters the battlefield, so you just get the draw cards thing basically, which is quite nice. Next we have one of the, the commander for Slimvoda. Slimvoda, the Rising Deep is in here. So I think Wizards must have just saw the absolute love for sea creatures and thought, yeah, we're gonna make this guy happy. Slimvoda the Rising Deep, you know what this guy does if you've watched the deck tech on it. Blue, blue and 6 for a legendary creature Leviathans, 8/8 for 8 mana. But then you can kick it for an extra blue and a 1, so it costs 10 mana in total. And if it's kicked, then you can return all creatures to their owner's hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopus, Serpents and Merfolk, so a good one-sided board wipe. And a lot of your creatures are those creature types. Not all of them, but most of them. Next we have Acidic Slime. Fantastic card. This is green, green and 3 for a 2/2 with Death Touch. When it enters, you destroy target artifact, enchantment or land, so a nice bit of removal there on a body that can also trade with the creature on the ground, so a fantastic include in a lot of commander decks these days. Eternal Witness is in here. That's lovely. I need another Eternal Witness, and yeah, that's awesome. Eternal Witness, you know what that does. Green, green and 1 for a human shaman. When it enters, return target card from a graveyard to your hand. It's a 2/1. So it's brilliant to see that in there. Reclamation Sage next, another staple in a lot of commander decks because it's a body. When it enters, destroys an enchantment, so it's a cost 1 green and 2 others for Elf Shaman, 2/1 when it enters, destroys target artifact or enchantment. So yeah, again, a lot of EDH decks will run the Rec Sage because it's a body, and when it enters, it does something, which is lovely. Next, we have Sporemound. Green, green and 3 for a fungus. It's a 3/3 and it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. So again, another card that cares about lands entering, creating board state, which is going to be good. Next we have Wickerborough Elder. I think this is from Ultimate Masters one I'm looking at, yeah. Green and 3 for a Treefolk Shaman. It's a 4/4. And it enters the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. And you can pay green and remove a -1/-1 counter from it to destroy target artifact or enchantment. So again, another piece of good removal for artifacts or enchantments if you can remove those counters and maybe put them back on in some way. Next we have Yavimare Elder. So this is green, green and 1 for a human druid. It's a 2/1. Whenever it dies, you may search the library for up to 2 basic lands, put them into your hand, shuffle your library. You have to reveal them as well. And then you can pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. So it's quite good for making sure you hit your land drops. Not necessarily ramping you, making sure you hit them for additional value. Next we have Coiling Oracle. This is basically a growth spiral on a creature. So it's green-blue. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand and it has a 1/1 body. So that's lovely. Next we have Shark to Crab. So this is a fish octopus crab. From Guilds of Ravnica, or Ravnica Allegiance, I can't remember. Green, blue and 2 for a fish octopus crab. It's a 4/4 and has Adapt 1. So you can pay 2 and green, blue, and if this creature has no +1/+1 counters on it, you can put a +1/+1 counter on it. Lovely. And then whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Shark to Crab, tap target creature opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So you can adapt it, turn it into a 5/5, and then permanently tap something while Shark to Crab is still available on the battlefield. So it's okay. Yeah, I guess it fits into the octopus, fish, sort of crab subtype that's going on in here. And then finally, the last creature in deck, we have Meteor Golem. So it's basically just a 7-drop, colourless, so it's an artifact creature golem for 3/3, but when it enters, you can destroy a target non-land permanent and opponent controls. So it's a good way of just removing or destroying a permanent in green and blue, although Beast Within is probably a better sort of answer to that, and I think we do have a Beast Within in here. Yeah, we do, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, well, yeah, they're all the creatures in the deck. You've got a lot of big creatures in there. You've got a lot of cards that create tokens for when lands enter. You've got a couple of buff creatures that buff your stuff. You've got creatures that enter and destroy things. You've got creatures that tap things. You've got creatures that care about sending lands back to your hand, creating board state from landfall. So there's a couple of different themes in here, but mainly it's caring about your landfall triggers to create board state, and just doing things with big Krakens, Leviathans and stuff, really. Yeah, so good, nice little selection of creatures. I'm very, very happy with the Eternal Witness in there. The Ramanap Excavator is quite cool in there as well. Avenger of Zendikar obviously is very, very good. Meloku, the Clouded Mirror, is good in this sort of strategy. Yeah, just nice to see some of my favourite Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses and Serpents finally getting a light shined on them from Wizards in this Precon, including AC of the Gaia Strait itself. But yeah, let's go into the sorceries. So it's 10 sorceries. We got Whelming Wave first of all. So this is a mass bounce spell. So it basically says blue, blue, and 2 sorcery. Return all creatures to their owner's hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Yeah, just a great one-sided board wipe. It's going to sometimes send your own creatures back to your hand, but most of the time it's going to keep those ones out, the big ones that matter. Next sorcery we have is Spitting Image. This costs green, blue, hybrid, and 4 for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature. So you can copy any creature on board with this, and it has Retrace as well. So you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land, in addition to its paying it other costs, which is great when you've got Ramanap Excavator that will allow you to discard lands and then play them again from the graveyard, which is lovely. Just get a drink. I've been talking for a while. Next we have Compulsive Research. So this is blue and 2 for a sorcery. Target player draws 3 cards. Then that player discards 2 cards unless he or she discards a land. So you've got a lot of lands in this deck, so you're going to be discarding that land definitely, because obviously you can play it again with Ramanap Excavator and stuff that get lands back out of your graveyard, which is good. Next you've got Cultivate. So this is a lovely little ramp spell, obviously. Green and 2 for a sorcery. Search library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal those cards, once a battlefield tapped, another into your hand, then shuffle your library. Next we have Explore. So this is 1 green and 1 other. You may play an additional land this turn, draw a card. That's quite good. We've got Harmonise. So green, green and 2 for sorcery, draw 3 cards. I don't know why these sort of card draw spells are in here when we've got card draw on our commander, but still, I think these precons are just going to give you a lot of staples you can use in other decks as well if needed. Of course, you've got Kodama's Reach. Again, another ramp spell that fits into this category especially. Search library for 2 basic lands, put 1 to battlefield tapped and 1 into your hand, similar to Cultivate. Basically exactly the same thing. Rampant Growth, so green and 1. Search library for base land, put 1 to battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. Search for Tomorrow. This is a good little spell. Green and 2 for a sorcery. Search library for basic land, put onto battlefield, shuffle your library. But you can also suspend it for a green for 2 turns, and you can play it about paying its mana cost after that suspend count has been removed, which is good. And we've got Urban Evolution, so green, blue, and 3. Draw 3 cards. You may play additional land this turn. So those sorceries there really just care about just drawing cards, discarding lands, also playing additional lands and ramping basically. And there's more sorceries that you could put in there in place of these other cards, but just wanted to go through the precon cards today. So the instants in the deck, we've got Arcane Denial, which is a lovely card. 1 blue and 1 other. Counter target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So it's pretty good because it counters a spell for 2 mana. You don't have to hold up both those blues either. You can hold up 1 blue and 1 other. And then the control of that spell may draw 2 cards, that's fair enough. And then you draw a card also at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So it's like a counter spell, draw a card, political strategy. It's a very, very good card. Very, very happy to see that in here. We have, of course, the classic counter spell, blue, for counter target spell. Awesome. Fact or Fiction, so this is blue and 3. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library, and opponent separates those into 2 piles, 1 pile into your hand, the rest into your graveyards. But this is basically the instant version of the Sphinx of Ithun, because the Sphinx of Ithun does exactly the same thing than what this does. Next we've got Into the Royal, so this is blue and 1 for an instant, and you can kick it as well for an extra 1 and blue. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If the spell was kicked, you can draw a card. So it cantrips, replaces itself, gets rid of a pesky permanent, non-land permanent that you don't want out at the time. So yeah, pretty cool. Peel from Reality, so this is 1 blue and 1 other. Instant, return target creature you don't control and target creature you don't control. Oh, sorry, return target creature you control and target creature you don't control to their owner's hands. So yeah, again, another nice little removal spell. Blue is good for bouncing things. I mean, bouncing is good for what you need at that precise moment, but it's not stopping the threat permanently, it's only stalling them, which is what blue does, I guess, for permanent removal most of the time. Speaking of which, Beast Within is a great permanent removal. So this is green and 2 for destroy target permanent. It can be any permanent you like, and then its controller creates a 3/3 green beast. So that's a fantastic piece of removal in any colour. Not only green and blue, but green, blue, red, green, black, red. Beast Within is just a staple in most Commander games now for permanent removal. Growth Spiral, so this is green and blue. Draw a card, you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield, so great for land matter strategies. And then Symmitch Charm, green and blue for an instant, choose one. Target creature gets +3/+3 at the end of turn. Permanents you control gain Hex 3% of turn, or return target creature to its owner's hand. So a nice little bit of utility there, whether you need it for a combat trick, a way to fizzle someone's removal spell, or return something to your hand. Good little card. Next we have a few artifacts. So we've got Seer Sundial. So this is a 4-drop artifact with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, you can draw a card. So again, it's just another way of utilising lands entering, drawing cards, basically. We've got Symmitch Signet, 2-drop artifacts that can pay 1 and tapped at green and blue, so it fixes your mana. We've got Soul Ring, of course. Every deck now comes with a Soul Ring. And then we've got Swiftfoot Boots to protect your commander. 2-drop artifact that gives your equipped creature hexproof and haste with an equip cost of 1. And then we've got 3 enchantments. We've got Ea Ruin or Aya Ruin Expedition. So this is 1 blue and 1 other for an enchantment with landfall. Whenever a land enters under your control, you get a quest counter. Then you can remove 3 quest counters from it and sacrifice it and draw 2 cards. So it gets you value over time. The more lands you drop, that obviously equates to card draw in the end. We've got Kalni Hart Expedition, so this is green and 1 and has landfall. Whenever land enters, you can put a quest counter on it, and then you can remove 3 quest counters from it again, sacrifice it, search library to 2 basic lands, put 1 to battlefield tap, and shuffle your library. So again, it's a good way of making sure that you get some basic lands into play taps later on after you've hit a few land drops to get your synergies going. And then we've got Retreat to Kazandu. So this is green and 2 for an enchantment with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or you can gain 2 life. So it's a good way of buffing your team, or if you need life in the late game, all those lands coming in can just tick up your life again if you lost life from other means. But yeah, just in general, a nice little card to get you some effect from all of your lands entering. So yeah, that's all the cards in the deck, bar the 2 new ones. So there are 2 new ones. So I'm just getting them up for you now. So one of them is called Trench Behemoth. So this is a new Kraken for the deck. So let me just get this up for you now. It's not actually on the Wizard side, so yeah. Trench Behemoth. Okay, so this is blue and 5 for a 7/7 Kraken. So a new Kraken. Never thought I'd say it. A new Kraken. Awesome. So, it has return a land you control to its owner's hand, untap Trench Behemoth, it gains hexproof at the end of turn. So great in this sort of strategy because you can return lands to your hand to obviously get the incidental value off of all of your landfall triggers, but also you can give this creature hexproof with that ability. After you've attacked it, you can untap it as well. So let's just say ideal turn, you've got 2 land drops. You've got 2 land drops to turn. You've got your Trench Behemoth out. You play your land for turn. Great. You go to combat. You attack with the Trench Behemoth, which is fantastic. Does 7 damage. You you go to the second main phase, you use Behemoth's ability to return a land you control to its owner's hand, so you return the land you played earlier. That untaps the Behemoth and it gains hexproof at the end of turn, so it's basically just had pseudo vigilance. You play your next land for your additional land drop, which is fantastic. Get all your landfall triggers again, awesome. And then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, target creature an opponent controls attacks during its controller's next combat phase, if able. So then it lures something into potentially your Kraken, which has just untapped itself, or one of your opponents. Target creature an opponent controls attacks during its controller's next combat phase, if able. That's awesome. You can just force someone to attack with their most valuable creature, which is just really interesting effect on Trench Behemoth. I'm just happy to see a very, very interesting Kraken come out of this set. So I'm very, very happy I pre-ordered these. I also got the other one as well, the equipment one, but I'll do a different deck list on that at some point. So yeah, that's just a great little card, Trench Behemoth. I'm happy to see Kraken represented. And also we have a new Hydra called Stump Squall Hydra. So let me just get that for you now. Stump Squall Hydra. Yeah, so Stump Squall Hydra is a new Hydra for this particular deck as well. This is a 1/1 Hydra, and it costs green, 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 and X. And it enters the battlefield with, when it enters the battlefield, distribute X +1/+1 counters among it and any number of commanders. So it could basically be it's going to be a 1/1 anyway. It's not one of those creatures that enter and can just die. It's going to enter as a 1/1 no matter what. But you can give your commander extra counters if you wanted to, which is pretty cool. It can either be a big creature in itself, or it can be a fairly big creature in itself and also give a buff to your commander. So nice little bit of utility on there, but I don't think it really fits in the manner of the deck. I mean, there are ways to bounce it to your hand, I guess, so every time it comes out you can just keep pumping up your commander every time, so that's a good synergy, because you obviously can return stuff to your hand quite a lot with this deck. You've got a lot of stuff that say return target creature you control to your hand, or any target creature you control, so I guess with those enter the battlefield effects, that is quite good, thinking about it now. But yeah, it could see a home in Hydra decks or Zaxara decks or any other sort of X spell or big mana strategies. But Symmitch in itself is a big mana strategy, so I can see why they decided to put something like this in here. So it's a cool design, like it. The artwork's awesome, and the flavor text is lovely as well. In preparation to grow new heads, a Hydra may rid itself of older ones. So nice, like a snake shedding its skin to become stronger. So yeah, that is all the spells in the deck. I'll just go into the lands now. Obviously, the lands are renowned in these sort of decks to be utter garbage. There's 44 lands in the deck, and that's to be expected when you're playing landfall. So yeah, first of all, we've got Blighted Woodland. So this is a land that taps to add colourless mana, or you can pay 3 generic and a green and tap and sacrifice it. Search library for 2 basic lands, spend once battlefield, tap and shuffle your library. These sort of cards are good in landfall decks, because obviously they get you more triggers, don't they? So you play your Blighted Woodland, then you can sack it, get 2 lands into play. That's 3 landfall triggers potentially off of 1 card, if you've got the mana to do it, so I can see why they do it. Command Tower obviously is great because it taps to add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity, so that's included in most commander decks. We've got Coral Atoll. I can see why this is in here. So it enters battlefield tapped. When it enters, you sacrifice it unless you return a untapped island you control to its hand, and then later on it can tap to add 1 blue and 1 other. So it does it's basically like a bounce land, an old version of a bounce land. But bounce lands are good in this deck because obviously it allows you to return other lands back to your hand, so you can play them again for additional landfall value. So I can see why that's in here. It's the same goes with Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, both lands that you play, so you get a landfall trigger, tap, sacrifice, get another landfall trigger from the land that you fetch, even though it comes in tapped. So I can see why those are in there as well. Very, very good. Jungle Basin, so this enters battlefield tapped, and when it enters, you sacrifice it unless you return an untapped forest you control to its owner's hand. So similar to the Coral Atoll, it will return a land you control to its owner's hand, but then it does tap to add green and colourless as well later on. Memorial to Genius, enters battlefield tapped. It taps to add a blue, and you can tap it and sacrifice it and pay blue and 4 and sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. And obviously the lands that sacrifice themselves are good when you play it with Ramanap Excavator that's in the deck, because you can just bring those lands back out of your graveyard. Obviously it's a very, very cheap version of Crucible of Worlds, but still I can see what they're going for here. We've got Relic Tower in here. It gives you no maximum hand size and you can tap to add colourless. You've got Symmitch Growth Chamber, which is the Ravnica bounce lands basically. So it enters battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, return land you control to its owner's hand, and then it can tap to add green or blue. Symmitch Guildgate enters battlefield tapped, taps to add green or blue. Thornwood Falls enters battlefield tapped. You gain life when it enters, and it taps to add green or blue. You've got Vivid Creek and Vivid Grove, so they're 2 lands that enter battlefield tapped with 2 charge counters. You can tap to add the blue on the Vivid Creek, or tap to add the green on the Vivid Grove, or you can tap on both and remove a charge counter to add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. There are much better options for dual lands, even cheaper dual lands like the Yavimaya Coasts and Temple of whatever it is in Temple of Mystery, and much better. There's much better lands you can put in here, obviously, because it's Precon. They're all garbage. I can see some synergies with like the crack lands and stuff, but yeah. Next you have Woodland Stream, again another land that enters battlefield taps that green and blue, and then we've got 15 forests and 15 islands in the deck. So that is the deck, and I think it's pretty cool. Obviously it appeals to me because I'm a big fan of sea creatures. I do own most of these cards already, but it's good to have another load of commander staples in here for green and blue. A new commander in AC, 2 new cards, a Trench Behemoth and a Stump Squat Hydra are quite cool. Obviously you've got Soul Ring, Signet, all that sort of stuff. You've got Eternal Witness in there as well, Avenger of Zendikar, Ramanap Excavator, a couple of awesome cards that can fit into any other decks as well. So I think it's an absolute bargain at the moment. These commander decks, these precons that are coming out with the sets at the moment are absolute bargains. I bought the Anowon the Ruined Thief one. I've bought both of these ones from Commander Legends. The other one is from the Armory or something like that. It's all about Boros equipment, and this one is all about Simic lands. I'm surprised they didn't have this deck in the Zendikar Rising set, because this cares about lands a lot, and Zendikar is known for its big sea creatures, so they missed a bit of a trick there, to be fair. But albeit they still released it now, and I've bought it. I've bought both, so definitely go and check out. It's really, really good, really, really awesome. And again, if you're looking to buy any product, make sure you use the Pass the Turn discount code Level Up Gaming. It's a UK-based hobby store down in Bournemouth, and we visited it on the Pass the Turn Versus series. Go and check that series out as well if you're looking for fun EDH two-headed giant games against local game stores. But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic deck. There could be some obvious improvements to it, but again, the precons are just fun. They bring new players into Commander really, really easily. Give them some good staples, and off they go. Yeah, well, the main debate is Tatiova or AC. Who's best to lead a deck like this? And obviously there's going to be a lot of massive upgrades to decks like this, so make sure you drop a comment in the section below as to what you would add, what you would take out, what sort of alterations you would make, and who is better, Tatiova or AC. I'll leave that in your capable hands. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and make sure you like and subscribe, hit the little bell notification please. We'll see you next time. I've been Aaron, a Pass the Turn. Bye bye.